Welcome to Stock Smarts, where we decode the intricacies of investing and make it digestible to everyone who has the desire to make their money work hard. So join us as we have exclusive insights into the dynamic landscape of Philippine real estate and also exploring emerging trends and expert strategies to navigate the ever-evolving market. So whether you are a seasoned investor or just dipping your toes, this interview would be a treasure for valuable knowledge. Get ready, here with us, Miko Baranda, and watch this video. Here with us is Miko Baranda. He is one of the top directors in Lichu Property Consultants, also a titan in the Philippine real estate market. So without further ado, Miko.
Hi, Neil. Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's good to be back in your program. Thank you again for giving us this opportunity to share with everyone our thoughts and insights in the Philippine property market. We'll really just do a deep dive into it on what's happening in all segments of the property market. And if I can ask Neil just for the slides to be pulled up, please. I guess just to start off the conversation, there's still a lot of bad news happening all over the world today. Some people saying that COVID was just practice to where we are right now. There's a lot of geopolitical risks happening all over the world, wars happening left and right, high inflationary environment, high interest rate environment. But the Philippine property market has proved to be resilient. It continues to punch above its weight class. Hence, our theme, Grace Under Pressure, is what we are seeing in the segments that are in the different segments of the property market. Next slide, please. And just to reinforce that statement, Neil, just a month ago, the World Economic Forum released an article saying that the Philippine market in general has the potential to be a $2 trillion economy in 2034. That is 10 years, only 10 years from now. We have decided to outline a few of those engines or the cylinders of growth that we believe that will help take us there. Just to start that topic, one of which is the BPO or the IT BPM revenue. It's essentially essentially this is the revenue that we get from the BPO companies. If you look at the number at the top right of this slide, in 2016, the revenues was 20 billion. In 2023, which was last year, that grew to 35.9 billion, already representing 8% of the country's GDP. And the roadmap of the BPO sector is to grow that to 60 billion in 2028. So a lot of exciting things happening in that space, both on a contributor to the economy and at the same time a job generator. Ang BPO sector today has about 1.7 million jobs that they're hiring directly. And what they say is that for every one person that's hired in that environment, it indirectly hires 3 more people, multiplier effect, essentially, just so that lalo na it happens a little bit more in the province, in the countryside. If an agent is hired, there has to be support to that.
Right.
Second is, as we know, the remittances have continued to fuel our economy and continue to do so. In 2023, almost the same number as the BPO's revenue-wise, 33 billion. But what we are observing is that this number will only continue to grow. And the reason for that is what you call the demographic destruction that's happening all over the world, essentially the aging population. I was just in Korea a few days ago, and I was talking to a few friends that live there, and they say that the birth rate in Korea is 0.4 or 5 per family unit, where in the Philippines has come down, but at least it's still at 2.83 people per person. So we're seeing that countries are starting to age. Japan, Korea, many Southeast Asian countries, and the Philippines will continue to be a provider for many of these aging countries. At the same time, no, which is also quite interesting, there are um, what you call PhilAms that have lived in the US for 15 years, 20 years, and they have now decided to go back to the Philippines uh, for various reasons. So some of them, they feel like things that are what's happening in the US are is becoming too uninhabitable for them. Now, by them moving to the Philippines, they're not only moving money, but they're moving talent, meaning these are 20-year veterans that are bringing a specific skill and specialty here, which all of us can either learn from or can just be a big contributor to the already dynamic economy. And finally is tourism, no tourism, which is a low hanging fruit. We have 7,000 islands, and the challenge of tourism has been for the longest time is infrastructure, getting to these 7,000 islands, making these places interconnected. But what happened in the last 4 years during the pandemic is there was what we call a golden age of infrastructure. Essentially, 150 kilometers of roads, bridges, railways were completed or about to be completed, and modernization of a lot of airports, which brings that, which is what we really need for the ability for the country to be more accessible by foreigners. One more thing to point out here is in 2019, the tourism arrivals at 8 million was the highest that we have recorded in the entire tourism industry. And that may seem like a large number, but if you compare that to other countries like Thailand, in Thailand in 2019, the number of people that traveled in Bangkok or Phuket is close to 40 million tourists. So this number is still very quite insignificant in terms of what the potential is of the tourism um, industry is.
Yeah.
So
Miko,
just
question.
yeah, go ahead. Sure, Neil.
Kasi ang laki nung difference sa regional peers natin. Malaking factor ba doon because of infrastructure or kulang sa marketing yung Philippines internationally, or is it because yung sa available real estate offering? Eh, any like insights of it?
Yeah, I think yung sa tourism, no? If you, siguro let's use Boracay as an example of a particular place to visit. So if you were coming from another country, let's say Singapore, the challenge of Boracay today is it's still a domestic airport, which means that you have to fly in from Naiya, and then from Naiya, take another flight to Caticlan or to Calibo. And then from Caticlan, ride a shuttle going to the port. And from the port, ride the boat going to the island. And from the island, ride another vehicle to your hotel. So that entire process of navigating through it is almost a day for someone that's traveling to Metro to Boracay. So they're losing one day coming in and they're losing another day coming out. So that challenge of many of these tourists wanting to come in, but the inefficiency of getting to the place was the challenge, I believe. Not so much the marketing of it, but syempre, a lot of them, time is really a valuable commodity. And for them to lose that just by the transit uh, is, I believe, a very difficult proposition when they decide where to go.
Yeah, mauubos na yung leave nila yun kung may extra one day pa. And
Yes,
then one
yes.
day just for that. I remember yung nag-Bali kami. Ano na,
Yeah.
international yung airport, diretso na konting ano na lang, you're there na in the spots. Where like you've said, hindi pa
Yeah.
international yung mga top spots natin. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I think yung one thing that we're seeing na medyo on the positive side of things is yung mga other domestic airports are now international airports. So for example, I don't know if you've been to Bohol lately, pero dati you will fly in Tagbilaran, the domestic airport. Now you have the international Panglao Airport. So someone from, let's say, Korea, I can fly in direct to Bohol, and then take a 5-minute van to my resort. So
Wow.
the ease now, that's why Bohol, I guess, is one of the few places now that also is becoming a very popular place for foreigners to visit, because ang pwede mong gawin doon, let's say in the evening, let's say you have a late night flight at 10, 11, you can still have dinner in your hotel and then have a few drinks, di ba? Have a beer or two, tapos punta ka sa airport, then you don't need a 3 hour window na ginagawa natin here, di ba? We're afraid of whether the terminal is too congested, that di ba, it becomes a very horrific experience, kaya we allot so much time to be there early. Pero now with an international airport like in Panglao, you can be there in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, check in, di ba? Fly out, then you're already to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Malaking bagay.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Sige.
Good. Ano. Sige,
Yeah.
going back to your slides.
Let's going
Thank
back
you
to the
for
slides.
and
And maybe if we can move to the next slide. No? I guess we just want to do a deep dive muna on what's happening in the office sector. As a summary also from last year, that's the demand for the office sector reached 1 million square meters of leasing activity. That is a very large, that makes the Philippines one of the largest markets in terms of volume of leasing demand. We've been studying what's happening in other places like the US, which, if you look at San Francisco, look at New York, the vacancy in New York, for example, ngayon is about 14 million square meters of vacant buildings. And to put that in perspective, if you add all the buildings in Metro Manila, all the office buildings, that's 12 million square meters. So imagine all those buildings empty. That is what New York is today. So we are still very lucky in terms of what's happening in our country, that the need for leasing of office space is still quite there's still, the activity is still very prevalent. So demand is strong, as you can see, by 25%, which we will walk you through in the next slide. So this is a very busy slide, and then apologies for the slides that we'll be showing you. There's really a lot of data because we want to make sure that we're reporting factual information, that we really deep dive into many of the intricacies of what's happening, so we can also better advise our clients. So the bar charts that you see there, 2020 until 2024, are the square meters that were taken in each of the quarters. And on the far right of your screen, you will see that we have increased on a year-on-year basis for the first quarter of 2024, the leasing activity by 25%. Essentially, how is that being driven? Who is leasing space today? At the bottom of that, you will see that the segments of the market, the largest today is still the IT BPM sector, or the BPO companies. And yes, many of them continue to be hybrid. Some are more remote than others, some are more on-site. But ang nangyayari dyan is, because of the BPO industry has been an industry that has been activated for 20 years. It started in 2001, and now it's 2024. Many countries around the world still look at that BPO as a model to save cost in the most efficient, scalable manner. So many, as we have been hearing, diba, some companies are under financial scrutiny. Ang ginagawa nila in the US for them to be able to save their bottom line is one of the few things they can do is outsource and offshore more work to the Philippines. And by doing so, the cost savings is still very substantial. If you look at the salary base, no, like someone that they will pay for in the US, they will pay 10x what they will pay in someone that's working here, and the talent that they're getting is far more superior.
Yeah, Nico.
Yeah.
Sorry, naalala ko lang as I cut you. Kasi 'di ba, the talent's more superior, save cost. Have you heard yung sa news, I think last week yata or 2 weeks ago, yung merong grocery ata So mag-check out ka ng items, tapos instead na physical na tao yung nag-check out, may TV lang. Tapos yung TV na yun, from the Philippines, yung employee. Nabalita mo yun?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if it's the same company, but this is a company actually from Dumaguete. Imagine there's a BPO in Dumaguete that's operating there. And then ang ginagawa niya is they deploy this service to restaurants. So for example, nasa US ka, you want either grocery or let's say you want to buy you're in New York, gusto mo bumili ng pizza over the counter. For them to hire someone local there, they will need to pay a certain price for that person where they cut that completely by having a screen that you talk to and that's someone that they're dialing in from the Philippines, in the province pa, if it's the same example, no?
Yeah, pero di ba, like, I mean, if yung cost mo will really go down, why not? Pero syempre, ayaw yun ng mga countries kasi sabi nila nawawalan daw sila ng jobs. Sabi nila, pero syempre, it's still a blessing dun sa napupuntahang work. So, yeah, that's what technology can do.
Yeah, I think yung like many years na yan, that's been a debate where in the US, diba, parang they will claim that we're taking jobs away from them because of the BPO agents that are being hired here. But the reality is many of the local citizens also don't want those jobs to begin with. Kumbaga, unlike here, diba, they are very grateful to be able to be hired by a multinational company and then to earn also way beyond what they would normally be able to get. So there's kaya the level of service here is also very alam mo yun, you can see it from the growth in the industry.
Yeah, tsaka magaling pa mag-English, tsaka hardworking. Tapos, 'di ba, pagka let's say BPO, IT, instead na minimum wage, it's way higher eh. Kaya parang marami ka rin talagang supply. Kaya parang may mga nakikita ko sa mga BPO, parang forever hiring eh. Although syempre, mataas rin yung retention, pero laging hiring.
Yeah. That's true. Ano talaga sila, the lifeblood is talent. That's why the BPO, as we've presented earlier, it's a job generator. It's the largest job generator we have. No industry today sa Philippines can say that they have 1.7 million employees under one base. Yeah. And the good thing about it is because of the proliferation of the BPO industry, it gave light to not just Metro Manila but yung untapped locations outside in the provinces. Yung mga dating very sleepy provinces na by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, wala nang bukas, ngayon are bustling and open midnight, 24/7. So, iba talaga, it changes the landscape completely.
Yeah. Tsaka nagkaka 7-Eleven, mini-stop. Kasi
yes,
yun yung yun yung bukas ng gabi eh.
Correct. Actually, if you've traveled recently sa kahit mga, I don't know if you've been to Dumaguete or to Rojas or even to Iloilo, if you compare what those places looked like 10 years ago to today, nakakagulat how urbanization has really played a role through the BPO industry as at the core of it.
So that's really good kasi at least nadi-decentralize yung opportunity. Hindi na kailangan magsiksikan dito. Traffic na nga dito sa atin. Gusto na nga natin ma-decentralize. But that's good. At least it's paving a way. And it's not just as you hire a BPO, may indirect hire pa, but also may real estate pa dun. Hence, that's why we're talking about it.
Correct. But the key element also would be yung talent, diba? Kasi a company will locate in a province where they cannot hire. So the educational system will need to come into play. Not just the regular education, but yung specialized, that the kind of output or students that are graduating there is a match for the industry. So for it to work, there's a government, government plays a role, academy, etc.
Yeah. So maraming natutulungan na pamilya yung BPO and IT. Kasi I have even classmates when I was studying sa Mapua engineering. May classmate ako, full-time nagwo-work, nag-school, pero full-time siya, nagbi-BPO. So, wala na masyadong tulugan, pero yun. Maraming opportunities. Ayan. Sige, balik ko na sa slides mo. Saya nang naging conversation natin.
Siguro one more thing to point out here before we leave this slide. No? So we mentioned na yung BPO has continued to be the largest driver of the office market, even with them adopting to hybrid. Kasi even hybrid sila, marami pa rin opportunities because countries and companies continue to offshore and outsource more work here. Second is, one of the few things, I guess, that people are wondering are the POGOs, diba? The Philippine Offshore Gaming Operators. As you know, in 2018 and 19, they were unprecedented yung growth. They were opening not only retail, not only offices, but retail. They're leasing residential. They're leasing offices all around Metro Manila. Pero tinamaan rin yung industry na yan during COVID for a variety of reasons. One of which is actually nung COVID just before March of 2020, the Chinese New Year. So they sent people from China to back there at hindi na sila nakabalik kasi nagkaroon na ng travel ban.
Right,
as you know, the POGO industry, 90% of or 80 to 90% of people that work there are mainland Chinese. So hindi sila nakabalik. Nagkaroon ng gap in that. But also, amongst that, a lot of other factors. Diba? Taxes, government, ganyan. Maraming battles yan that they have to...
Naalala ko nung peak, Nico, nung pre-pandemic, I was living in a condo sa Makati. Tapos parang ako yung foreigner, parang puro Chinese kasama ko sa elevator, sa lobby. So, yeah. Pero syempre, nag-take hit yun nung sinabi mo nga, yung pandemic and all. So,
pandemic and also a lot of social issues, diba? Maraming social issues related to it. Kaya there's a lot of debate, diba? It's a government, should they be here, shouldn't they be here? But the answer to that on a property market point of view is what people think is an exodus. They left, but quite a number of them are still here. Although they're not growing at the same pace as before. Medyo mas conservative. And if we can look at the slide again, just to point out, ang take-up nila for Q1 was 55,000. That's the one in red. Before, in 2019, that would easily be 200,000. So, a quarter in terms of take-up. Ngayon, what we want to also highlight is the danger that we were all facing before is pag umalis ba yung POGO or if the demand from POGO diminishes, what will happen to the property market? And what we're seeing is even though POGO companies are taking less, the BPOs and everyone else are helping bring the demand numbers still afloat. So we're not fully dependent anymore on POGO, which is a good place to be because the volatility of it is just the uncertainty and the volatility is hard to bank on when you talk about leasing. So we can just move to the next slide. So that is a picture of demand. Now, where are they leasing? No? Where are companies leasing space? Heavy pa rin in Metro Manila, core pa rin. So the top locations will continue to be the CBD, the Central Business Districts. But also what is interesting is activity is happening all over the Philippines. Hindi na siya Imperial Metro Manila. Activity is actually starting to happen in Visayas, in different parts of Mindanao, which is brought by or contributed by the BPO industry looking for other places to hire talent, to be able to set up operations. And they found that a lot of other places outside Metro Manila are actually a nice spot for them to thrive and do business. Next. So, ang ginagawa rin namin is we track the transactions that are happening today. Kumbaga, so that we have what we call a pipeline of what we can forecast in the next 3 quarters. So whether it's a coffee shop na 4 square meters lang ang requirement or a call center that needs 5,000, we put that in one basket, and that is the 583,000 square meters that you see on the far right of your screen. What that tells us is that today, as of April, there's 580,000 square meters of requirements looking for space. Yung iba dyan are either preliminary pa lang, they're looking for shopping around, while others are already at the tail end, about to finalize a transaction. So that is important because that is a barometer of what the rest of the year will look like, which we are seeing will continue to be positive with just that high forecast of what's coming. Next. So, although we also have to understand na during COVID, lalo na at the very peak of it in 2020, there were a lot of companies that said, I will need to let go of my space kasi ang tagal natin naka-lockdown. We were locked down for 2 years. Not all developers said that, okay, 2 years, we won't charge you. Some said, we will give you a discount, while others said, maybe we will defer payments. But during the peak of it in 2020, 2021, at the most uncertain of times, you cannot blame these companies for letting go of space. Kasi there was no, hindi natin makita, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Even for us, nung, di ba, hindi na natin sure hanggang kailan ba tayo sa bahay.
Nag-imbak na tayo ng mga delata at bigas nun eh. Hindi na natin alam.
Tama.
Yeah, so...
And diba, if you remember, it took so long for the vaccines to come onshore sa atin. Many countries were already vaccinated. Some of them were already going out. While sa atin, we're still, diba, Sinovac or
Moderna. Hirap pa sa stocks eh. Hirap pa sa stocks. Yeah.
Yes,
so, it really took a hit yung sa office market. Kasi nga, nasa bahay naman lahat eh. Laki ng operation expense eh. So, nung natapos yung kontrata, so like what you've said, depende sa leeway na binigay. Half the price, deferred, ganyan.
Pero also, if you look at the time, yung even naka-lockdown yung mga BPOs, nasa office pa rin sila, most of them. They were able to either work skeletal, as long as allowed ng government. But without that industry, sorry to keep coming back from it, kasi coming back to that particular segment, it is just quite unique na meron tayo nun that other countries don't. And that is keeping the property market alive.
Yeah. I remember yung skeletal. So, alam ko may minamandate yung government before. Skeletal siya, pero hindi nagsasabay yung team para may team A, team B.
Tama.
Para kung sakaling may na-COVID sa team A, o at least may team B pa rin na magtutuloy.
Yes, tama. Correct. So just to go back to the slide, yung for the first quarter of 24, medyo malaki rin yung contractions na nangyari, 140,000. But a few of those are big POGO transactions, hindi lang natuloy. Kasi there are transactions happening in POGO, but in the end of the day, there's a long process for them to really not only choose a site, but be able to procure the permits needed. Minsan, hindi nakukuha yung permits, hindi natutuloy. So, we count that as a contraction. Second is, if you look as far back as 2019, if you were a company in 2019, nag-lease ka ng space, you probably would have been leasing at the highest in the market. Kasi yan yung peak na market. And many of those companies signed for 5-year leases. So 2019, 2020, 21, 22. Pagdating ng 23, they're paying here while the market is here. Now the question is, will the landlord meet them here? If not, many of them will go and leave and find another home. Kaya nakita tayo ng contractions because some companies that were paying at the highest level in 2019, when they requested that they be given or granted more modest increases or a reduction, it was so far apart from them. Parang mas maganda pa for them to just leave and relocate to another building.
Right.
Okay, so maybe we go to, and then just on the next slide also, in summary, the more important figure here is, ang blue kasi dyan is demand, gross, red is yung contractions, ilan ba yung companies that have let go space. So, the figure there that we need to understand is net demand. Ano yung net, diba? How many companies really took space versus everyone that gave up. So if you look at the line graph, nakikita rin natin that the gap is starting to widen, meaning mas maraming demand, then less companies are contracting. what we need to understand in the leasing market sa Philippines is it's not a demand problem kasi the demand is going up. It is a supply challenge, meaning ang daming buildings that were supposed to be completed in 2020. Kasi noong 2019, people are so optimistic eh. I want to build because I know that may POGO, alam namin na may BPO, that that building will be easily leased out. And nagkaroon ng COVID. So many of those buildings that were midway were unable to finish in 2020, 2021, 2022. So lahat na ipon sa 23 and 24. So we're now facing a delay from buildings that were supposed to be completed years before and are just being injected ngayon. So nangyayari, pag may 1 square meter na take up, may 1 square meter rin na supply na nagagawa. So nagbabanggaan na. And that is the reason why the vacancy remains at a high level. Pero okay yun kasi it's not a demand problem. So time will take it.
Sorry Miko. So can we say, is it nasa oversupply na ba tayo or
yes, but we also need to look at that on a per district basis. Kasi if we look at it lang it's as Metro Manila, mataas na figure yun. But if kunwari Metro Manila today, double digit ang vacancy na sa mga 18%. But if you look at some of the core districts like BGC today is only at 8 or 9%. So single digit na because many of these other districts have more volume in terms of companies that are looking to set up their operations there than others.
Right. Sabi daw ng mga friends ko, BGC daw, traffic, like ngayon, di ba? Compared to Makati, pre-pandemic traffic, pero now, not as much. Siguro dahil nagluwag nga yung mga companies, marami nag-work from home or hybrid. Is it true? Parang yung sa Makati, parang mas nababawasan at mas marami sa BGC?
I think traffic guys. Traffic guys. It's siguro ang challenge lang with PGC compared to Makati, yung commute because there are more options to commute sa Makati. Sa BGC there's more limitation yung sa transportation routes. Pero if you look at that bridge, I don't know if you pass through that Santa Monica Bridge, yung sa likod, 'di ba? Yung from BGC linking you to Ortigas or at least the one at the back, yung 1 kilometer bridge na ginawa nila.
Right. Yeah.
So likod, that, yes, yung likod. But
yung sa Mitsukoshi ba to? Ito ba yung Mitsukoshi?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine what one bridge can do in terms of cutting the time, in terms of you getting from one place to another. Iba talaga if you have the infrastructure, it really is an infrastructure more than anything. And syempre, yung mobility, transportation. Pero ang nangyayari dyan is that the younger, at least the talent pool, when they look for work, they look for a job. Syempre, marami ngayon will want to work from home. Siguro. But those that choose to work from the office, iba pa rin yung prestige na alam nila, ay yung opisina niya nasa BGC or nasa Makati. Instead of, yung office niya nandito sa ibang district. Parang there's that affinity to, or working at the center of, diba? It's just like the Manhattan or the New York of the Philippines.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of prestige, Miko, I remember merong mga business na you can use an address na Makati, pero hindi ka talaga dun nag-office, pero yung office address you can declare na Makati ka or BGC ka. So di ba may mga ganon?
Yeah, ano yun? It's called the virtual office. Yeah. So ano yan? It's more for companies na they need to register an address. Tapos, for example, hindi naman talaga nila nang kailangan ng physical office. Ang ayaw naman nila yung home address nila gamitin nila to incorporate a company. Kailangan nila ng address. And many of them, because may certain prestige nga sa Makati or BGC, they choose to avail a virtual address in those places. Para pag nagbigay sila ng calling card sa'yo, yung opisina niya nasa Makati or nasa BGC or nasa iba yung dating.
Hindi JP Rizal no?
Kaya nauso rin yan yung virtual office dahil
tsaka sa mga condos hindi basta-basta pwedeng gamitin yung unit mo as a business address.
Correct.
Kaya yun din.
See, yeah. So just back to the siguro before we move on, maybe the next slide. Ito siguro this is our last slide for the office sector. No? So yung right now, even though okay yung demand, 25% above from year on year, marami pa ring supply. There's 3 million square meters of vacant space in the entire Philippines. But what I said earlier, kailangan we have to look at this on a per district basis instead of it looking at it as a whole. Kasi if you look at it as a whole, yes, maraming vacancy. But imagine this, kunwari sa BGC, if there was a company looking for, let's say they're looking for 5,000 square meters. Malaki, let's say it's a big company. We need to open a 5,000 square meter office in BGC. You are probably only left with 3 buildings today na makakapag-service ng requirement. So you can see that there's starting to the scarcity of supply is starting to take place in the main core districts. But it is a different story with others. So yun, siguro that is a first segment, no, looking at the office, which is a very important component of the property market because it's a barometer of jobs and it helps part and parcel what's happening in residential and others.